Imagine you're driving through a wealthy neighborhood. You see the manicured lawns, the twin-turbo SUVs in the driveways, and the soft glow of designer lighting behind floor-to-ceiling windows. You think to yourself, these people have finally made it. But what if I told you that statistically, the person behind that steering wheel is just one missed Tuesday away from total financial collapse? The image of success you're looking at is a hollow shell. In fact, the more someone earns, the more likely they are to be trapped in a cycle that is quietly devouring the middle and upper classes. We've been told that poor is a lack of income, but the data proves that broke is actually a state of mind that scales with your paycheck. Think about your own life for a second. You get that 10% raise, and for about 3 weeks you feel like you can finally breathe. Then the car insurance goes up, you upgrade the gym membership, and suddenly that extra money has vanished into the walls of your life. You're earning more than ever, yet your bank balance at the end of the month is still exactly zero. The reality is that we are living through a wealth mirage. Most people think they are building a life, but they are actually just building a cage out of higher quality materials. This is where it gets interesting. The number of people living this way isn't just high, it's dominant. But wait, before we look at the staggering percentages, I need to tell you about the golden handcuff paradox. It's a mechanism that forces high earners to live exactly like those on minimum wage, but with 10 times the stress. We'll dive into that in a moment. First, let's look at the numbers that the banking system doesn't want you to calculate. Current reports show that nearly 60% of adults are living paycheck to paycheck. You might hear that and think, yeah, the economy's tough, entry-level jobs don't pay enough. But here is the twist that should terrify you. Nearly half of people earning over $100,000 a year are in the exact same boat. Think about that math. That is someone earning $8,300 every single month, yet by day 30 they have nothing left. They aren't struggling to buy bread, they are struggling to maintain a mirage. They are high earners, not rich yet, a group economists call Henrys, and they are the engine that keeps the debt-based economy running. But here's where it gets dangerous. Most people assume that living paycheck to paycheck means you're just spending what you earn. That's a lie. In the modern system, it actually means you are spending more than you earn and using debt to bridge the gap. You aren't just at zero, you're in the negatives, disguised by a high-limit credit card.
You see, the bank doesn't want you to have a surplus. A person with a surplus is dangerous to the system because they don't need to borrow. The system is designed to mop up every extra dollar you earn. We call this lifestyle creep, but it's actually a highly engineered form of social conditioning. Imagine your income is a water hose and your life is a bucket. When you start out, the hose is a trickle and you find a small bucket. As you get promoted, the hose gets wider. But instead of letting the bucket overflow into a savings account, the system convinces you that you need a bigger bucket. You get the $200,000 suburban home, then the $500,000 upgrade, then the $800,000 dream home. The hose is blasting water now, but the bucket is so massive that the water level never actually rises. You are working harder, running faster, and earning more, but you are still just one dry spell away from an empty bucket. But wait, it gets worse. This isn't just about spending too much on lattes or vacations. This is about the fixed cost trap. When you live paycheck to paycheck at $100,000 a year, your survival cost has scaled with your income. Your mortgage, your car payments, and your private school tuitions are now fixed. If a person earning $30,000 loses their job, they can move into a smaller apartment or cut back on groceries. But if the $150,000 earner loses theirs, they can't cut back on a $4,000 mortgage payment. They are locked into a high-stakes game where they cannot afford to stop running. They have lost the most valuable asset in the world, the ability to say no. This is what most people don't realize. The system wants you to be a high-performance debtor. They want you to have enough income to pay the interest, but never enough wealth to pay the principal. You are the perfect customer when you are stressed, tired, and deeply invested in your own social status. Here's where it gets really interesting. There's a psychological layer to this called the Duesenberry effect. It suggests that our satisfaction isn't based on our absolute income, but our income relative to our neighbors. If you move into a nicer neighborhood, you don't just get a nicer house, you get a higher baseline for what is considered a normal life.
You see the neighbor's new deck? Now your perfectly functional deck looks like a pile of rotting wood. You see their kids in club soccer? Suddenly, your kids need to be in it too. You aren't spending money because you want to. You're spending it because your brain is convinced that staying still is the same as falling behind. Now, you might be thinking, but Finn, I need these things for my family's comfort. And you're right, comfort is a drug. But here's the pattern interrupt you need. Comfort is the ultimate enemy of freedom. Every time you trade a surplus for a comfort, you are selling a piece of your future autonomy. Think about the stakes. If you live paycheck to paycheck for 40 years, you are effectively a volunteer for the banking system. You are working 2,000 hours a year just to pass money from your employer's hand into the bank's hand. You are the middleman in your own life. But here's the loop we teased earlier. Why does the system need you to be broke? Because a person with 6 months of expenses in the bank is a person who can quit a toxic job. A person with a surplus is a person who can start a business. A person who isn't living paycheck to paycheck is a person the system cannot control. Look at the macro perspective. The global economy is currently built on $300 trillion of debt. That debt requires interest payments, and those interest payments require a massive global workforce that must show up to work on Monday morning because they have a car payment due on Friday. Your brokenness is the collateral for the entire world's financial stability. This leads us to the climax insight. The paycheck-to-paycheck statistic isn't a sign of a failing economy, it's a sign of a perfectly functioning one. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do: extract the maximum amount of labor for the minimum amount of permanent wealth transfer. So, what do the informed people do differently? They realize that the only way to win is to stop playing the status game. They understand that a surplus is more luxurious than a status symbol. They don't look at their paycheck as a spending limit, they look at it as a seed bank. They embrace tactical underliving. They earn $100,000 but live like they earn $50,000. They keep the old car. They stay in the smaller house. They ignore the neighbor's new deck. Not because they are cheap, but because they are buying something the neighbor doesn't have, an exit option. Here are your actionable steps. First, find your zero-based baseline. What is the absolute minimum you need to survive if the world ended tomorrow? That number is your real cost of living. Everything between that number and your paycheck is choice capital. Second, automate the theft. If you wait until the end of the month to save what's left, there will be nothing left. You have to steal from yourself on payday. Move 20% of your income to an account you don't have a debit card for. If you don't see it, your brain will adapt to the smaller hose. Third, audit your status taxes. Look at every recurring payment you have. How many of them are for things that actually improve your life, and how many are taxes you pay to look a certain way to people you don't even like? Cancel the status taxes. Every one of them is a hole in your bucket. Finally, you need to change your definition of rich. In the old world, rich was having a big house and a fast car. In the new world, rich is having a high FU ratio, the number of months you can survive without a paycheck. A teacher with $50,000 in the bank and no debt is richer than a surgeon with $500,000 in debt and zero savings. The most unsettling realization you can have is that the middle-class life you were told to aspire to is actually a trap designed to keep you productive until you're 65. You were told to buy the house, the cars, and the lifestyle, but no one told you that those things would own you. You are currently standing in a field of golden handcuffs. They look beautiful, they shine in the sun, and they make you feel successful, but at the end of the day, you are still in handcuffs. It's time to realize that the key isn't a bigger paycheck, it's a smaller life that allows for a bigger future. The person in the designer SUV is probably stressed, tired, and terrified of losing their job. The person in the 10-year-old Honda with a fat brokerage account is the one who is truly free. Which one do you want to be? If you want to understand how money really works and see the hidden mechanics that keep most people trapped in the cycle, make sure to subscribe. We are decoding the numbers so you can stop being a statistic and start being an owner.